All right. So, Chris, we just finished recording our newest episode for SoCo's Most Interesting Podcast. And I always like to ask, sir, what did you find most interesting about what we're about to watch?
I learned some new information about our local market that I had no idea about. And so that was really important to me, to be honest with you. Secondly, I don't have to pre-think and not screw up SoCo's Most Interesting Podcast. That's very natural for me now. And this is the first episode where that happened. So I wanted to share that with everybody. How about for you, Mark? What's your insight?
Chris, I am really excited, not just for this episode, but for the future ones where we're going to be bringing on some pretty awesome guests that are subject matter experts in their area that can really help people in Southern Colorado get where they want to go, especially in regards to their real estate dreams. And so excited to look forward to those things.
Awesome. Everybody stand by. Here we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to SoCo's Most Interesting Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Chris Bongirno, and I'm here today with Mark Ditkof. As always, Mark, how is your day going today?
Chris, today is, I think, the best Wednesday I'm going to have this week. What about you?
You know, it's a good day. I was able to ride the motorcycle in October, so I have no complaints. You know, as long as I can ride the motorcycle around, it's a good day.
Sounds like a good day to me. What are we talking about today, Chris?
Mark, I think what I'd like to focus on today, although we made this decision together, not to imply I was in charge, but we're going to talk about what a shifting market, well, more specifically, what the shifting market today looks like and what that means for buyers and sellers. And I think, you know, the name of the podcast is SoCo's Most Interesting Podcast. And I think, you know, we're going to focus in on Southern Colorado instead of talking nationally, although, you know, if you want to bring up some national stuff, you can. But I think really, and I think most people in real estate agree with this statement, is that real estate is local. So what's happening here may not be happening 50 miles from here or 100 miles from here. So I think keeping it local it should be part of our discussion. Do you agree?
Yeah, I completely agree. And actually, what's interesting about that statement is that I actually just saw a stat this morning for the national real estate market, and it labeled the top 10 markets that have increased in value and the top 10 markets that have decreased in value throughout the country. And there were 10 markets where the one that increased the most was up right about 11% year to date. And then the one that decreased the most was down about 10% year to date. And so that even shows why it's local is, I mean, if you try to compare those two directly, you have a 21% difference in what their values have done this year. It's not apples to apples because every area has different amenities, different reasons people want to live there, or different reasons people are stuck living there, right? And so we're going to focus Southern Colorado, Pueblo area, Canyon City, Trinidad. That's kind of where we talk and where we focus when we do these podcasts.
Yeah, and I think also too, Mark, that not only do those numbers differ dramatically, like you said, 21%, the reasons of why the top 10 increased could be 10 different reasons, and the reasons why 10 decreased could be 10 different reasons. So I think that's, again, important, another reason to keep it local and talk about what's going on here. So, Mark, I'm going to turn it over to you because you're really the subject matter expert on this way more than I am. So what's your thoughts of where we're at right now, or what do you want to talk about?
So I use the Pueblo Association of Realtors stats. It's called a 10K report that they put out every single month that breaks down a lot of the important numerical statistics that we like to use to evaluate the market, right? And so we do things based on what's the median sales price year to date. How has that changed? How long is it taking homes to sell? What's the affordability index for those things? And other things, how many homes are coming on the market, that kind of stuff. And that all tells us, comparing it to years past, where is our market standing now? Now, it's hard to argue that markets, they're always shifting, right? It's always changing. It's never just the exact same as it was the month before, the year before, 5 years before. And so a couple of years ago during the COVID era, people know that property values went up literally every single day, right? You put a house on the market, a couple of days go by and you've got many, many offers. You're actually holding offers for a week or so at times to collect as many as possible so you can sell a house for as much as possible with the least amount of contingencies, right? People can't cancel, things like that. And that's just not the case anymore, right? And just 2 years ago, that was the case. And so people put a house on the market now with that expectation, and it's unrealistic. And so where are we now in regards to comparing ourselves year to date this year to year to date last year is what I like to do, because that's going to be where does the recent market trends show us? Where have we gone? And that kind of helps us dictate where we're going. Does that make sense?
It does to me, Mark. And when you're talking about these numbers, are you talking about things that are happening? We're currently recording in October of 2023. So are you talking about things that are happening in October? Are you talking about things that happen in the first quarter? What time period, when you talk about these numbers, are you looking at?
This is going to take us through September of 2023.
Okay.
Because when in October is when we get the stats for the month previous. So we're towards the end of October now. We're kind of in the middle of October when we're recording this. We've just received the stats for last month, and therefore now we can compare what all of that looks like. And so one I want to point out most exclusively just to start this is the affordability index. So the affordability index is actually a national standard where they put together these numbers based on a 100 is an average affordability, right? Higher than 100 means that the area is more affordable. Less than 100 means that it's less affordable. And this is based on your median income for families and what their housing values are doing, insurance, taxes, all those things added together. How affordable is it to live in that area? Okay. Not surprising, areas like San Francisco have been the least affordable for years now. I don't know if they're the least affordable now, but they've been for probably the last 10 or 15 years known as one of the least affordable areas. It's so expensive to live there. And then you've got places like in the Midwest and in the South, right? You've got Indiana and Alabama and Kentucky, things like that are typically the most affordable areas to live, right? People make enough money to make it their ends meet. Homes and real estate prices are always typically low. And so in Colorado, we've got some areas of Colorado that are more expensive than others to live, right? Surprise, surprise. Golden, Fort Collins, Denver, all of those are going to be some of the lesser affordable areas in Colorado to live.
Aspen, Breckenridge,
Well,
resort
yes,
areas,
absolutely.
obviously.
Yep. And those are smaller areas, and so they don't get as much detailed analysis like that. But absolutely, that's true. Is you go to the resort area, any resort area.
That's not really representative of most of the suburban and urban areas of the state. And then we have a completely different. You go out east, and we have a completely different kind of environment compared to the mountains, and even Denver and Colorado Springs. The farther east you move, the more rural it is and so forth. So just in case someone's not familiar with how our state is kind of set up, and just keep that in comparison. Anyway, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead, sir.
No, you're good. So during the COVID era, when interest rates were below 3% for most people, right? Our affordability in Pueblo, or the affordability index, was sitting between 115 and 130. It would kind of fluctuate in that range. So it was definitely past the 100 point, and it was well on the affordable side. People could really afford to own real estate here. Today, from these stats, we're sitting year to date at an 86.
Wow.
So we have dropped 40, almost 30 to 40 points in affordability. That means it's a lot more expensive to live here. Now, we are still, in my opinion, the most affordable metro, called Pueblo Metro, right, area in the state, right? Colorado Springs and Denver and Fort Collins are going to be less affordable than us, but we're currently sitting at 86, which is a minus 3.4% from last year. So last year we were sitting probably right about a 90. And we're at an 86 now. And interest rates last year, Chris, remind me on this, they were sitting pretty darn close to where we are now. Because I think it kind of peaked in October of 2022 before it came down a little bit. And then it started going back up later in 2023, didn't it?
Yeah, but I'm going to say they were cheaper than they are now. They were closer to high sixes, low sevens, and now a lot of people are in the mid to upper sevens, even low eights, depending on loan program, credit scores, and so forth. So it's made a big difference. The other thing that we had, Mark, that impacted that affordability, I think you'll agree, was reassessment of values from the assessor's office, and then also an increase in homeowners insurance, correct?
Yeah, homeowners insurance has skyrocketed. We were actually just talking about this. We're going to be having a homeowners insurance expert coming on the podcast within the next couple of weeks. So everybody watch out for that one. But that's a big topic. There are actually states right now that are struggling to get homeowners insurance providers willing to provide on properties in the state. Florida and California especially are really, really struggling. Colorado's not there yet. We still have options, but the prices and the premiums are really, really going up.
And all
Taxes
of
did
that
get
goes into that affordability figure that you were talking about of 86%, correct?
Yeah, so they try and take it into account all of the aspects that a person would need to afford the area. And so if you're in an area that is notorious for higher insurance rates and higher taxes, they do take that into account. And
Okay.
so the taxes, yeah, they did get reassessed as well. And a lot of people actually, their monthly payments for their homes haven't adjusted for the higher tax rate yet. So it's only going to get worse as values continue to hold, as taxes then get reassessed, and that value goes on to your monthly payment. As inflation continues to go up, right, everything is making it where it's looking like we're going to trend as the market shifts, because that's what we're talking about. The affordability is going to continue to go down. And so that's a topic that I know, Chris, you and I have had before, is if somebody's going to buy, things feel expensive now, just wait until it gets worse. Right. And so could we potentially buy something now and then take advantage as things move on and hopefully recover? But it's going to get worse before it gets better, is what my expectation is. And when I say worse, I just mean less affordable. Right. And so people just have to prep and be ready, maybe have a little bit more reserves, have a little, don't be switching jobs so often, those kind of things. Make sure you can make your payments.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right in terms of, I've had clients who have had insurance or taxes go up, and so their monthly payments have adjusted, but what we're really talking about is not the people that bought 2 years ago or 3 years ago, but really people that are selling now and buying now, because people still have to buy and sell homes. And I think part of that shifting, at least, and from my perspective, and I'd like your perspective, is that 2 years ago, there were a lot of people purchasing and selling who didn't have to. There wasn't a job change. There wasn't a family status change or anything like that. They were making the election to either buy or sell. And I think the percentage of those people that have the option to buy or sell is going down. And most of our clients are starting to be like, I have to sell because I'm relocating, or I have to buy because I'm relocating, or because we're having a baby, or because we're getting married, or some kind of change that doesn't give them the option. Would you agree that that's kind of shifting, that that's part of that shift that we're seeing?
Yeah, it's not as much an option anymore. It's a requirement, right? It's a necessity that people are making these moves, and they're still doing it. And a lot of what we're seeing is people coming from out of city in the Pueblo area coming into our city, because we're still one of the more affordable areas to be,
Right.
in comparison to some of the bigger cities. And so that's where Pueblo still benefits. Our affordability index is down, but it's not down as much as other places that are just really, really hard to get buy-in. When you've got Denver at I think their median sales price is somewhere in the $750,000 range, right? That's more than double our median price. And so is it really worth living there compared to here for double the cost? That's the choices people can make, right? And so especially work from home, those kind of things, people are choosing to live in more affordable areas as long as they still have some of the amenities they're looking for.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, and Mark, you can talk about this because you'll have some more knowledge about it than I am. Another need where it's not so much an option but a need is people who have leases expiring, and the landlords are significantly increasing rents. In a lot of cases, it makes sense for those renters, even with higher interest rates and affordability being lower, and prices being higher from where they were 2 or 3 years ago. It still, in a lot of cases, makes sense. Those folks do have an option to buy, but it's more like less of an option. It's more of a need, just because rents have increased so much. Would you agree with that? You have some insight on it?
Yeah, I mean, if you've been on a lease for a couple of years now and your landlord hasn't increased that monthly payment, their taxes and insurance have also skyrocketed, right? And so there's a good chance if they haven't increased it on you recently, they're going to have to in order for them just to be able to afford you still living there. And so just be ready for those if they haven't happened yet. And if you can, I mean, we've had clients before that they can literally buy a house on a monthly payment that's less than what they were paying in rent for what is objectively a better living situation too. It's not just the fact that they're now a homeowner, but it's a better home in a better area, closer to the amenities. It's all the things that they wanted. They just didn't know that was an access point, right?
And
so
that goes into that affordability part, is that, we may be, I think you said, an 86 affordability, right? But if your rent is going up $600 a month or $500 a month, that may be less affordable than buying a home. And another important thing, just that I was thought of while you were talking about that, is landlords are not necessarily raising the rent to be jerks, right? It's not like they're trying to make every penny off of you as a renter. And I didn't even think about this till you brought it up. They're having to raise rents just to make the same profit margin they were making, let's say 2 years ago, when taxes and insurance were significantly less.
Yeah, rental homes are a business, right? You're not going to own a business that doesn't make money, that doesn't make sense, right? And so I own rental properties, right? And we've talked about this before, that I have to be able to cash flow on those in order for me to want to keep them. Right. And so if you're mad about your landlord raising the rent, just I always have very honest conversations with my tenants if I ever do raise the rent on them. And I say, guys, this is not benefiting me. It's really just that we can continue to pay our bills to make sure that you can still live here. Because if I can't, I'm going to end up having to sell this, and then you're not going to live here at all. And so that's really what we do. Now, are there some jerk landlords out there that squeeze everything out of people? Sure, right? Sure, absolutely, there are. But I like to think most landlords, the mom and pops that just own a few houses, are good people trying to make ends meet. And again, it's a business. It's a business, and they have to make money on that business. Otherwise, businesses shut their doors, right? Let's shift gears real quick now, and let's talk about one other metric I like to follow is how many houses are coming on the market compared to how many are selling, because that tells us a lot about a shifting market, right? In years past, when it was a huge seller's market during COVID, meaning that things were selling quickly and for exorbitant amount of monies, we didn't have very many houses coming on the market. And the ones that did come on the market sold overall very quickly, right? We typically had close to 90% of homes were selling within 60 days, right? And that's quick, because typically that means they're under contract within 15 to 30 days. So only 2 weeks on the market sometimes. And then they're going under contract for those 30 days and then closings at days, but below day 60, right? And so right now, when we're comparing it to last year, surprise, surprise, we actually have 17% fewer listings that have hit the market this year compared to last year. So that's why we're still in a seller's market, which we've talked about on previous episodes. We are seeing fewer and fewer houses still come to market. Part of that is the option is gone, right? Typically, the people that are now selling are those that have to sell. People don't want to sell off their 3% mortgage to go into an 8% or go back to renting or whatever it is, but they have to for whatever reason. And so that's why we have 17% fewer listings hitting the market. 20% fewer homes are going under contract. So 17% fewer are hitting the market. And then from there, even fewer of those are even getting offers, which is just insane to me that you've got less inventory and less homes going under contract. And that all leads to then less homes are selling. 25% fewer homes have sold year to date compared to last year through September. And so you've got fewer homes hitting the market. Fewer of those are even going under contract, and less of those are actually closing, because not every house that goes under contract sells, right? And when you have those things adding up, our inventory, the number of homes available on the market looks to be like it's up, but a lot of that is because we have fewer buyers trying to buy at 8% interest, like you had said, right? So really, we have less homes than we've had on the market in years. That's why prices aren't moving, right? Because there's still the demand that's there, supply and demand, right? There's fewer buyers, but there's fewer homes. It's kind of an equal graph still to what we've seen in years past, where we had a lot of buyers and therefore people were willing to sell because they were going to get a lot of money for it. Now, fewer buyers, but even fewer homes. And so we are technically down 1.6% year to date on value. Last month, I'm pretty sure it said it was up 1%, right? We've just been fluctuating kind of back and forth all year long in regards to our median sales price. And so we are not really affected on value. There's not many homes for sale, and there's not many buyers out there, kind of just leveling out the market to make it similar to what we've seen in years past.
So, Mark, with the shifting market, where we're at right now, what's the good news in all of this for a buyer?
Well, most lending experts or economy people you talk to, they believe really that interest rates will eventually come down, right? They're not going to be at 8 and above percent forever. And so if you can afford to purchase a home right now, go buy one as long as you're comfortable buying it with today's situation. And you're likely going to see a benefit from that within the next few years with the opportunities to refinance or potentially sell it if you don't need it anymore, knowing that there's going to be an influx of buyers that come to market when interest rates do go down. Right, Chris? I know that refinances are not super popular right now because not many people want to refinance to 8%, right? But what if rates went down to 6%, which is a few years ago, if you heard 6%, you'd be freaking out. That is a terrible interest rate, right? But today, if we went to 6%, you've got a lot of buyers that came in at 7.5%, 8%. They're all going to look to refinance if possible. And so that's a huge benefit if you can get in now as a buyer. Absolutely do. The next step is, as we've talked about in previous episodes, sellers are a lot more negotiable right now, right? Yeah. There are fewer homes on the market, but there's also fewer buyers. So if that seller wants to get it sold, there's a good chance they're going to upgrade the house a little bit for you even before it goes on the market. They're going to be willing to pay closing costs, rate buy downs, whatever that looks like. If something needs to be replaced during the inspection period, there's a good chance they don't have 6 buyers waiting in the wing that are ready to buy the house without that upgrade. And so they might be willing to do that for you as a buyer. So there's a lot of good opportunities here that you could probably talk to your local real estate expert about, and they'll be able to walk you through what those benefits are. But it's just really, again, the fact that we're not changing in value. Houses are taking longer to sell. We're up 33% on days on market, right? Last year to date, it was only taking 63 days to sell. Now it's taking 84. What to do? Another 20 days? That's nothing in the grand scheme of things. And so we are in a seller's market, but buyers have a lot of negotiating power still.
What's the good news for sellers? What if someone didn't have to sell because of a relocation or something? Why would a seller choose to do it now? And thinking about maybe somebody who's staying in our community, maybe going from in town out more rural to like Hatchet Ranch or out to Pueblo West, or even switching out to Fremont County or east of Colorado Springs. What's in it for a seller in terms of selling now and maybe stepping up or something along those lines?
Well, and that's going to depend a little bit about when you bought the house, right? If you bought the house last year, there's a good chance you might not be able to sell that house and make money on that sale, right? Because again, statistically, we're down 1% from last year. And so if you bought it for $300,000, you might only be able to sell it for $297,000 now. And that doesn't include any closing costs or commissions or anything like that, right? And so not necessarily a great opportunity unless you have to. If you bought a house before COVID, however, right, 2020, 2021, and then into 2022, houses saw a 40% increase in value, right? Historically, we see about a 4% increase in value year over year. We saw 40% in 3 years. That's over 10% per year for 3 years straight. And so there's a good chance you're sitting on a lot of equity. Can you sell it right now for as much as you could have last year at this time? Well, statistically, no, right? We're down 1%. But compared to when you bought it, you're probably sitting on a whole bunch of money that you can still sell it for. Yeah, you might be paying closing costs. You might be doing a rate buy down. You might have to upgrade the house a little bit, but you're going to walk away with a lot more money than you should have expected to walk away with when you originally bought the house. Right? If you bought a house in 2018 and expected 4% appreciation year over year, and it's been 5 years, I mean, it's compounding, but let's pretend it doesn't compound, right? That's like 20% is what you should have expected since 2018. But in reality, you're closer to 45 or 50%.
Right.
That's a lot of money you're sitting on that you could potentially sell and move that into, are you going to buy another property? Are you going to put it into stocks? Are you going to do some sort of other investing in it? There's opportunities available.
I've got one last question for you that came up to me as we were talking. Somebody owns their own home right now. Let's say they bought it in 2017, 2018, somewhere in that time frame. And they want to upgrade, but they haven't, right now they're kind of thinking, oh, interest rates are high, that kind of stuff. I think we'll wait. Talk about if someone wants to build a home right now to get that ideal, we want the kitchen the way we want it. We want the bathroom the way we want it. Should they take a look at buying now and selling their existing home? Or is that a particular case where someone maybe does wait 6 months or a year or 18 months to sell and to build their new home. Talk about that a little bit.
So if you're building, and let's say it's a custom home is what I'm thinking, right? You're not going to
let's talk about custom or semi-custom.
Yeah. So if you're finding a builder, what the best things about if you're looking to build is you can pick exactly where it's going to go. You can pick the lot. You can buy the lot. Typically that's cash or low financing, right? There's not a huge loan on that. And so you could typically pick up exactly where you want to build now for a better price than you were the last couple of years. Prices of land have gone down over the last couple of years because builders stopped picking it up as fast as possible because of the way the market was before. A lot of builders stopped building unless it's a pre-sold, right? And so there's just more inventory of land available to buy where you want with the amenities you want at a price that makes more sense, right? And then if you're going to build, there's options available where a lot of custom homes are going to require you pull the construction loan, or they're going to have you deed it over. There's options that we'd have to go into that. That's a topic for another day, potentially, is custom home building. But we've got lenders that do what's called a one-time close, where they pull the construction loan and they fix your interest rate up front. So you know exactly what you're getting 9-12 months from now, whenever that construction is finished. And that could be a benefit because if rates continue to go up, well, you're locked in. And if rates drop drastically, then you can refinance. You'll know you can refinance pretty soon after.
Right.
But it's giving you that safety cushion that, again, whatever you lock in at, know that that's going to be a comfortable payment for you. And that way you can feel good about moving forward no matter what rates do. And so that's my recommendation for most people that are looking to custom build right now.
And a lot of lenders with that one-time close have a float down option on the permanent loan too. So
they have like a one-time float down. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you set that, it's set as a cap. And then when it goes to convert, you have the option to float it down. So, you can not have to worry about that refinance expense if you're with a lender that offers that kind of stuff.
That's right. I forgot about that. And not only that, but a lot of times they do like a one-time free float down. Right. And then there's a cost to float down if you want to do it again. Yeah. And so you just have to weigh whether or not that cost is worth the interest rate savings.
Right.
But yeah, no, that's a great point. It's a good product if you're looking to custom build those one-time close options, as long as, again, you qualify and it makes sense. And if nothing changes, don't expect it to drop, right? If nothing changes, you're comfortable with what the situation looks like up front.
Yeah. And one other thing that I want to throw out there about new construction is there are right now a lot of less custom, what I would consider semi-custom, where you can go in and pick you pick from a floor plan, but everything inside you're kind of picking out and customizing yourself, colors, carpet, those kinds of things. There's a lot of builders that through their in-house lenders are offering excellent interest rates and concessions for buying down interest rates, or concessions to upgrade to a marble countertop versus, a standard countertop. So if somebody is interested in looking at those builders that offer those kind of programs, should they work with a real estate agent, Mark? I know this is a little off topic of what we talked about, but just because we threw this in there, is that something they should go directly to a builder with, in your opinion, or talk to a real estate agent?
I don't ever think there's really a negative to working with a real estate agent, even when you're doing new constructions. Now, most new construction builders that at least are experienced, they kind of have their systems in place. So I'm just going to be honest. I don't think real estate agents bring their full value all the time when you're working with some of those. Now, most of those builders are happy to have you bring a real estate agent with you, so it doesn't cost you anything extra. And you get an extra level of protection and somebody that can help you negotiate a little bit. And so, yeah, I do recommend definitely bringing a real estate agent involved if you're in a situation where that's not going to cost you anything extra and that it's something you don't feel comfortable necessarily jumping in by yourself.
Great. Well, Mark, thanks for clarifying that for me, because it's a question I know I have clients ask me that, and I've answered it very similar to how you did. So I'm glad you gave me that feedback. Mark, this was great. I learned some really good stuff today. I really appreciate you taking the time to do a little bit of research before the show and have those numbers available. Anything you want to add about today, what we talked about?
Yeah, one other thing that I guess we just didn't mention at all when you asked what buyers can do in this shifting market, assumable loans are an option, especially if you're going to be if you're looking for a new primary residence. You've got a 3% mortgage right now that you don't want to sell off because then you think you're going to an 8%. You can look for homes that have sold in the last 5 years or so that they were bought using, say, FHA financing. at a 3% loan and see if you can actually go the assuming route. And again, that's kind of a longer conversation to have, but don't think that you're stuck with today's rates. There are options to get really good rates. So talk to your local lenders and real estate experts, and they'll be able to walk you through what that process looks like and if it's the right situation for you.
And I think that's an opportunity for sellers too, Mark. Because if you do have, that you're somebody that bought and used FHA financing and your interest rate is 2 3/4, that's a heck of a marketing opportunity for you. There's only going to be so many people that are eligible to buy that home under assumable conditions, but certainly as a seller, you would want to get that out there and put that as a reason for someone to, if they don't end up using the assumable part, that's fine, but they came and look at your home and it's a potential to have that buyer there.
Yep, I agree. All right, sir. It was fun today.
Dude, that was a big inhale.
Yeah.
I paused for you. I knew you had something to say.
It was fun. I liked it. This was a good conversation. I like having number conversations. It's just who I am. So, Chris, if somebody wants to get a hold of you directly to ask questions or just be your friend, where do they find you?
In the comments down below, Mark, spelling of my last name and such, it's easier just to look at it. But it's cbongirno@loandepot.com, and I'll have my phone number down there as well. And then how about for yourself, Mark?
They can find me on any of the major social media platforms at Onyx Home Group. And so that's Onyx with a Y. Really encourage everybody that watches this, like, subscribe, follow our channel. We're going to be trying to put out more stuff. We're going to be bringing on some cool guests so that you guys can learn a little bit more about what Southern Colorado is and why this is the most interesting podcast. So
if Chris, you have any recommendations for us for subject matter or any input, please make sure to put those in the comments. I know we've mentioned that a couple times, and we really would like to bring in some experts and cover topics that you're interested in. So there's nothing that's off the table. It doesn't have to be real estate related. So,
and if you are an expert in something and you think that your time would be well served being on this podcast, we'd love to see you on here. So definitely reach out to us directly.
Lenders and realtors, builders, whoever's participating, please reach out. All right, Mark, I think that's our time, buddy. I will see you next time on SoCo's Most Interesting Podcast.